Hello there, men, and welcome to the Masculinism Movement channel, the place for men to be men and talk about masculinity and men's issues. I'm your host, Brian Crawl, and today I'm going to be mansplaining to you about female fakes. But first, can I ask you men to click the like button for me, because you know any women who see this are going to be disliking it to stifle it. Thanks. But now, women love to talk about what a real man should be and do whenever they're using manipulation tactics to try to change us men. And they say they want a real man, but the reason they can't get one is because they themselves are not real. For as I discussed in the last video, women say they want the things that they themselves are not. You see, women are inauthentic and ingenuine and incapable of being fully honest, truthful, and real. They are often called chameleons because they can change their shape to fit any social situation they need to in order to succeed in it. The success of their social lives relies upon varying degrees of lies and manipulation, and they often create entirely false social personas to portray to the social world so that people think they are a different person than they actually are. They then also have to create a fake self-image to portray to the world as well, so that they can appear to be far more perfect than they actually are. They use makeup to change their appearance drastically, taking as long as an hour or even two in order to cover up all of their imperfections and change the tone of their skin to the point where they look extremely different than they do in reality. And this is something that they have been doing for a long time, but in recent years, they have taken this much further. Many women these days are going so far as to make themselves look like they are barely even human anymore, but are plastic dolls, or worse, using supernormal stimuli like bright pink, or bright red, or bright blue, or indigo hair, and getting bodily modifications like tattoos and plastic surgery so that they can barely appear human anymore. Modern women can take this image faking even further yet by creating online images that are so doctored and different from what they look like in real life that you cannot even recognize that it is the same person. Like if you met this person on an online dating website and then you were showing up to a crowded place for a date, you wouldn't be able to spot them in the crowd because they do not look like their pictures. Because they take photos of themselves and then they can use filters or even photo editing like Photoshop so that they can make themselves look extremely attractive even if they aren't in real life. Some of them can even make themselves look like models even if they're actually really kind of ugly in real life. And while a man couldn't do these things in good conscience because it would make him feel like a fraud, since these women are not actually real, they are able to do this and actually feel good about themselves while doing it because of the fact that they have no real personality, character, or identity which they are being deceptive to. So when they fake their appearance or even post doctored photos online that don't look like them, they are actually able to trick their own minds into believing that the compliments and accolades others give them are actually about them, even though it is not really about them, but an unrealistic image that they have literally painted of themselves. So they start doing this constantly with anything that they do that they think makes them look good and like they are better than anyone else. Anytime they're doing anything fun or that they deem worthy of showing off to the world, they will take a selfie of it and throw up a filter to make sure it looks as good as possible, much better than it does in real life. And so they're able to make it seem like they are living these awesome lives, almost like celebrities, even though their lives may be quite empty and meaningless. And they are quite boring and lame people who don't really have much going on for themselves except what other people invite them to. But because they are creating this social feedback loop on social media sites they post things to, they feed right into their own bullshit and believe that they are better people than they actually are. They believe the positive feedback they receive from others even though it is not based in reality but illusion. People call them queens and goddesses, so they begin to think of themselves that way. They start talking endlessly about their self-worth, which is based upon having no real actual value. And when they meet a man like me and tell me of their great worth and how they are a queen, and I ask them what makes them that way, they cannot answer. And the cognitive dissonance that causes makes them just about have a psychotic break and start lashing out at me and becoming abusive. Because they have no real identity. You see, it is all just narcissism. And all it takes is one little question and doubt in their facade to cause them to freak out. They literally cannot handle the notion that someone may not buy into the idea of who they're trying to sell themselves as to everyone. But you see, they are not freaking out about being found out because they actually forget that they were putting on an act. They freak out about the potential realization that they may not actually be who they have come to believe themselves as. So what they have to do then is double down on it. Instead of realizing that they need to actually build up a real identity, character, and personality and self-image to rely upon, they just start reciting more and more narcissistic mantras about their self-worth and what a goddess they are, and put on more makeup and try to look more sexy and throw up more doctored selfies and then talk to more people who will create more positive feedback loops for them, turning their bullshit into shit that looks and smells more like chocolate, in spite of the fact that it is still just a big, heaping, steaming pile of bullshit. And as for the man who planted the seed of doubt in their mind, well, he is demonized as a misogynist. For to not believe that a woman is a goddess like everyone else tells her, he must be a woman hater. He is the problem. She is not the problem. He is. And so she continues living in the matrix as such for as long as she can, putting up online dating profiles, using these doctored images, and having nothing to say about herself in the profile because there's nothing to say about herself, since there is no real person behind the image for there to be anything said about. And of course, being as narcissistic as she is, she only goes for men who are much better than she is. And when on the rare occasion that she gets a date, he shows up looking like he did in the profile, but she doesn't, and the man quickly realizes he's been conned. If she's ugly enough, he may even just turn around and leave right away, sooner rather than later. If not, he may stay for a while if he can stand to be in the company of someone with as fake and bad of a personality as she has. And if she is attractive enough and doesn't behave badly, he may have sex with her. But after seeing her with her clothes off and realizing that she's not as fit as she made herself look in her pictures, and then seeing her in the morning with her makeup smeared off all over the pillow and realizing that she's basically just a troll wearing a hot girl's mask, he will of course never speak to her again. And once again, she will tell herself that it is he who is the problem, not her, for he was a fuckboy or a player or pig. The only reason he did not treat her like a queen is because he is not a good man. Not a real man, in fact. Thus, he couldn't stand to have a real relationship with a real woman like her. So she goes online to talk about how men are such pigs and can't handle a real woman like her, as if she's a zoo animal who needs handling, which she is actually little more than, I guess. And she, of course, gets more positive feedback, affirming her beliefs and furthering her narcissism. And then she goes on to tell herself that even though this was not a good guy, since he had sex with her, it does affirm that she is attractive enough for a guy like that, and that she is good enough for a guy with that level of status as well. That this level of man is now what she deserves since she fucked one, and she will not settle for anything less in a relationship, even though in reality she didn't and couldn't actually get a man like that in a relationship. And so the vicious circle of living a lie and being a complete fraud, but telling yourself that it is real, that you know what is real, continues in a downward spiral of neurosis. And throughout the woman's life, her appearance and personality continue to degrade more and more, and it requires more and more faking to keep up the facade she wants herself and others to believe in. And she lashes out more and more when others do not seem to believe it, beginning to go on tirades about how they are not real men if they cannot see her worth as a woman, and using shaming language, name-calling, swearing, and screaming even though as she gets older, this is very immature and unbecoming behaviors of a mature adult woman, especially as she approaches her middle ages and after she hits the wall and suddenly finds herself unable to even get one-night stands with attractive men anymore, and society at large stops treating her as though she has much value at all, as not anywhere near as much as she wants them to. The entire false reality she has created for herself, which has had cracks forming in it for the past decade or so, begins to crumble and start crashing down upon her. What is then supposed to occur is called narcissistic collapse. But many of these women who have spent their entire lives lying to themselves and others, creating and living an illusion, have gotten so skilled at this manipulation that even they can avoid this and continue to try to prop up their false sense of self in this fake lifestyle they're living, and will recruit whoever they can get to listen to them and believe their bullshit so that they can feel reaffirmed by it. At that point, they will be too far gone for dating and have no more prospects, at least not at any level they want, which of course is above them. So instead of lowering their standards, they will go online and talk about how there are no good men left, no real men at all out there, in fact, and ask where they have all gone. Of course, continuing to ignore all of the actual good and nice guys out there because they are just that good at lying to themselves and believing it. And a big part of that skill is ignoring reality and the real truths that they have to face on a daily basis. So they become feminists who rant and rave, reciting all these mantras but unable to have a real conversation or debate about the topics they talk about because they will simply ignore any questions they can't answer without showing themselves to be wrong and ignoring any facts that disprove them. So instead, they just lie louder, raising their voices above the truth tellers and talking over them, or even refusing them the right to speak at all and censoring them. And they continue to take their fake reality further by mastering the art of manipulation like a politician. But you can only live in a fake reality for so long, because the entire time it's having a negative effect on their mental health. Their grandiose narcissistic delusions make them more and more mentally ill as time goes on, and eventually they'll start acting psychotic with anyone who doesn't feed into their bullshit, and the narcissistic collapse will come for them eventually, and when it does, it will cause a psychotic break. And at that point, they will turn on their family and anyone else left who is close enough to them who they can use as their emotional punching bag to vent about their problems and, unleash all of their issues onto. Issues that they cause themselves, but which they will still blame on men, because the female fake can never take responsibility for what they do. Because how can someone who isn't real be accountable for anything? So when you notice a woman telling you a white lie or masking her appearance or being inauthentic or ingenuine or manipulative, keep in mind that it isn't innocent and harmless behavior. It is narcissistic behavior, and narcissism is insidious. Avoid the fake females. A fake person will only seek to draw you into a fake reality that is entirely of their creation and try to make their own illusions and delusions yours as well, and will manipulate your sense of what is real and play games with your mind until you don't know what is true anymore and end up actually believing in falsehoods. If you notice a woman seeming ingenuine, you should either avoid her entirely, or if you can't, then just ignore her. Or if you can't do that, then question her. Always question realities that are painted for you that you notice holes in. Do not just believe what all women say. It is the utmost importance that you as a man stay grounded in what is actually real and able to tell the difference between true and false. Otherwise, you might end up going crazy as they do. And if you can, just go your own way and avoid women altogether, because most women these days are fake narcissists. That concludes this talk. I hope I mansplained that well enough for you guys out there. Thanks for listening. Be sure to share your own thoughts and opinions on fake bitches by commenting below. And if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button and share these messages with everyone by sharing the video on social media and talking about these things too. And lastly, check out the links in the description below for other resources for your masculine and personal development, living the life you want to as an independent man. And if you can afford to donate, please do so with the PayPal link below, because your support funds me doing this work and fighting the good fight for men like you. And you can stay tuned for the next video coming out soon, which will be on how women don't actually even want men. And make sure you subscribe so you'll be notified when that is. And until then, take care of yourselves, men, because no woman out there is going to.